Unbelievable kindness, little girl discovers lonely CEO's birthday a heartwarming cake surprise. In the small town of Maplewood, where every face was familiar and every home held a story, 8-year-old Sophie was a burst of joy. Her laughter danced down the streets, harmonizing with the chirping birds and rustling leaves. Baking was her favorite thing to do, a skill passed down from her beloved grandmother. A warm cake spreads love and happiness, her grandmother would say, as Sophie floured the countertops, her cheeks dusted white with flour. One sunny afternoon, with a basket full of freshly baked cookies, Sophie decided to spread that love to her neighbors. The smell of chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin filled the air as she skipped along the sidewalk, a sunny beacon of hope. But today, her light would lead her to a shadowy figure, Mr. Thompson. Once the proud CEO of Maplewood's factory, now a shell of its former self, he sat alone on his porch, staring blankly into the distance. "Mr. Thompson, it's your birthday," she chirped, noticing his loneliness, which tugged at her heartstrings. Instead of joy, she saw only sadness etched into his face. An idea began to bloom in Sophie's mind, sparked by her grandmother's stories. Kindness was key to unlocking happiness. Fueled by determination, Sophie dashed back home and enlisted her friends and family. Together, they decided to bake Mr. Thompson a special birthday cake, a rich chocolate creation topped with buttercream frosting and colorful sprinkles. The kitchen buzzed with excitement, their laughter echoed as they mixed batter and decorated the cake. But as news of Sophie's plan spread through Maplewood, something unexpected happened. A divide began to form. Some townsfolk scoffed, viewing Mr. Thompson not as a person, but a symbol of the hardships they faced. "Why celebrate him?" they whispered among themselves. Others felt moved by Sophie's unwavering innocence. "Everyone deserves kindness," they argued back. As Sophie faced her classmates, tears glimmering in her eyes from their jeers, she held her head high. "Why can't we just show kindness?" she countered, her voice steady despite the tremor of frustration beneath it. On the day of the celebration, her friends arrived with handcrafted cards and wide smiles, igniting an electric atmosphere of anticipation. But just as they began to sing "Happy Birthday," a misunderstanding sparked. Mr. Thompson, caught off guard by the gathering clamor, misread the smiles and laughter as mockery. Hurt, he left abruptly, leaving the room heavy with silence and confusion. Overwhelmed, Sophie felt the air shift. The joy she wanted to spread had tangled into frustration and disappointment. With a heavy heart, she realized her act of kindness had unintentionally widened the rift in the town. But Sophie's spirit wouldn't dim. Standing tall in the empty factory lot, she bravely faced her classmates and community. "We can be better. Mr. Thompson isn't just a factory owner, he's a person. We need to show compassion." Her words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of contemplation. Could they really rise above their anger? As the tension crackled like static electricity, the question loomed large: would Maplewood unite in understanding, or would their fears continue to divide them? Sophie's heart raced as she scanned the faces of her friends and neighbors, feeling the weight of their judgment. Their murmurs swirled around her like summer dust. But her determination did not waver. "Not today. Please," she said, "let us try again. Mr. Thompson didn't mean to run away. He just needs to feel that he's welcomed back." She could sense uncertainty in the crowd, an unwillingness to forgive a man they believed had turned his back on the community. Sophie glanced toward the factory, its rusty gates looming like a forgotten memory. "I know it won't be easy," she pressed on. "But if we show him kindness, we might just change his mind." A few nods emerged, hesitant but hopeful. Her friend Mia stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with understanding. "We can make another cake," she suggested. "One just for him, and then we'll go to his house. Maybe that will help." Sophie's spirits lifted. "Yes. Everyone can help. We can decorate it together." Laughter replaced some of the tension, igniting the embers of camaraderie once more. Within moments, they were all bustling back to their homes, gathering supplies to bake. Flour dusted the kitchen as the children worked side by side, a revival of joy filling the air. Around the neighborhood, whispers began to shift. "What if we make it a community effort?" suggested Mr. Wilson, the local librarian. "Instead of just a few of us, let us make this a day everyone is involved in." Excitement buzzed. Ideas flew. Soon, the residents were signing up to contribute everything from cake mix to balloons. The plan grew larger. It would now include a gathering in the park after delivering the cake. A chance to share stories and reconnect. As Sophie and her friends layered the cake with frosting, it felt like their work was not just to create something sweet, but also to mend the fabric of their town. Each smear of icing felt like a bond being reforged. That evening, after hours of baking and decorating, the cake stood proudly on the table, a beautiful, chocolate masterpiece, adorned with sprinkles and tiny fondant letters spelling, "Happy Birthday, Mr. Thompson." The next day dawned crisp and clear. Maplewood seemed to hold its breath as Sophie led the way to Mr. Thompson's house. Her heart thudded loudly, a mix of nerves and excitement. Every step felt monumental as they approached the lonely porch. Gathering her courage, Sophie rang the doorbell. Moments passed, but it felt like eternity. Just as doubts started to creep in, the door creaked open. Mr. Thompson stood in the doorway, his expression wary but curious. "Hello," he said, voice low. Before he could process, Sophie took a step forward, holding the cake high. "Happy birthday, Mr. Thompson. We made this for you." His eyes widened, surprise flashing across his face. The other children behind her echoed her sentiment, overflowing with warmth. "We want to celebrate you. Please, join us in the park." A wave of emotion washed over Mr. Thompson. He stood frozen, as if lost in a memory. The shadows of his past appeared to flicker before his eyes. But was he ready to leave that behind? Sophie held her breath. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered, the weight of the moment settling. What would he say? Would he close the door again, or could this birthday really turn into something meaningful? A silence lingered in the air, thick with anticipation. Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed as he looked from the cake to the faces of the eager children. Sophie felt her heart flutter, hope and fear dancing together inside her. Would he turn them away? At last, the corners of his mouth twitched, almost imperceptibly, like the first blush of dawn after a long, dark night. "You did this for me?" His voice cracked, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "Yes, Mr. Thompson," shouted one of the boys. "We wanted to show you we care." His voice was filled with the boldness that only a child could muster, unencumbered by the weight of grown-up worries and grievances. Slowly, Mr. Thompson stepped back from the door, leaving a small but undeniable invitation. I suppose I can't turn down a cake," he murmured, a flicker of a smile breaking through the years of solitude. Sophie felt her breath release, joy rushing to fill the spaces of doubt. As they moved onto the porch, she glanced back at her friends, who were bursting with excitement. The thrum of hope flowed through the group, amplifying with each step. The walk to the park was filled with laughter, the children chattering and recounting how they had helped with the cake. Mr. Thompson listened, nodding slightly, though a hint of sadness lingered in his eyes. "You all work together so well," he finally said, his voice cracking again, but this time with warmth. By the time they arrived, the park was alive with color. Strings of balloons floated overhead, and tables were lined with all sorts of treats contributed by the community. The hum of conversation blended with the laughter of children playing games, a beautiful tapestry of life that felt foreign to Mr. Thompson. "Welcome to the community," Sophie said softly as they stood before the table, her eyes sparkling with hope. "We want you to be a part of it." Mr. Thompson only nodded, looking over the crowd. There, in the midst of a welcoming embrace, he felt the walls he had built begin to crack. Sophie and her friends carefully placed the cake in the center of the table, its chocolate glaze glistening under the soft morning sun. The moment seemed to hold its breath as all eyes turned to Mr. Thompson. There was an unspoken question hanging in the air: would he make a wish? "Okay, everyone," Sophie called, her voice ringing out. "On the count of 3, we'll all sing Happy Birthday." They counted together, the melody rising with each number, their voices blending in an overwhelmed chorus of joy. Mr. Thompson's eyes glistened, and for the first time in a long time, perhaps ever, he felt the warmth of belonging. As the last note faded into laughter, he took a deep breath. He reached for the cake knife, ready to carve into the sweet offering, but a flash of realization struck him. What he really felt was a desire to finally share his own story, to break through the silence that had wrapped around him for too long. He turned to Sophie, heart racing as he opened his mouth to speak. But just then, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd, drowning out his words. The moment of truth was slipping through his fingers. Would he step forward into this new chapter, or retreat into his shell once more? As he looked into Sophie's hopeful eyes, he felt the pull of possibility, but could he risk it? The cheers from the crowd filled the park with a vibrant energy that was both exciting and overwhelming. Mr. Thompson looked around, his heart pounding at the unexpected turn of events. Children danced, their laughter floating into the air like bubbles bursting in sunlight. Yet there was an undercurrent of hesitation pulsing through him, making him question whether he truly belonged. Sophie stood beside him, her small hand gripping his. Her eyes sparkled with encouragement, and without speaking, she seemed to be saying, "This is your moment." He felt the warmth of her hand, steady and reassuring. "Make a wish, Mr. Thompson," shouted another child, a girl with ribbons in her hair. The plea was innocent and pure, as if the spirit of celebration resided in her very words. All eyes were on him, waiting for him to take the leap. Finally, he looked down at the cake, the culmination of his unexpected journey alongside these children. His throat tightened as he thought about the years spent in isolation, lost in a world of spreadsheets and long meetings. Would the weight of that solitude hold him back again? The moment stretched out, like the fading sun clinging to the horizon, and he swallowed hard. The truth was there, bubbling beneath the surface, filling him with both fear and excitement. He had spent so long hiding away that the thought of sharing who he really was seemed impossible. "Ready?" Sophie's whisper was soft but firm. It pulled him from the edges of uncertainty. "Just give me a moment," he said, trying to ground himself. Taking a deep breath, he finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, but he was interrupted again, this time by an unexpected guest. A flurry of colorful feathers and vibrant fabric caught everyone's attention as a juggler appeared out of nowhere, launching into a performance. The crowd erupted into applause, laughter spilling out like a joyful waterfall. Mr. Thompson, still taken by surprise, found the chaos almost welcoming. It drew him in, surrounding him with warmth he hadn't felt in ages. The juggling act went on, entrancing children and adults alike. It was a moment of pure delight, and Mr. Thompson watched as the kids forgot everything else, completely lost in the wonder of the performance. Suddenly, the community spirit wrapped around him like a soft blanket, shutting out the haunting loneliness he had lived with for so long. "We can wait for you, Mr. Thompson," a boy exclaimed, racing over after a great clap of applause went up. "You can still make your wish." Looking down at the anticipation etched in their tiny, hopeful faces, Mr. Thompson felt a surge of something he hadn't experienced in years. Connection. With a newfound resolve, he nodded, a small and shaky smile breaking through. Tonight, there would be cake and laughter, but more importantly, there would be stories shared and bridges built. With his heart drumming in sync with the excitement surrounding him, Mr. Thompson finally stepped forward. He took the cake knife, feeling its cool, reassuring weight in his hand. "I'm ready," he said, his voice stronger now, reverberating with the promise of new beginnings. As he sliced into the cake, a burst of chocolatey scent filled the air. Cheers erupted once more, but beneath that joyous noise, he felt a transformation beginning to take root. However, as he looked across the gathering, he noticed something on the sidelines, a figure standing alone, a familiar look of longing etched on their face. The moment froze for him, the excitement still buzzing but now mingled with an urgency he hadn't anticipated. Who was that person? What had he missed in the swirl of celebrations? Mr. Thompson felt the call to adventure beckoning him in a completely unexpected direction. Mr. Thompson's heart raced as he spotted the figure on the edge of the celebration. It was a woman he recognized, Angela, a colleague from years past. Her wide smile betrayed a hint of sadness as she watched the laughter erupting around the cake. He hadn't seen her in years, and yet her presence felt like a lost puzzle piece that had returned to his life's image. He hesitated, the joyful atmosphere swirling around him. The children were happily clamoring for their slices of cake, their voices a beautiful symphony of childhood wonder. But Angela's expression tugged at something deeper within him, a longing that stirred his own memories of shared laughter, of moments lost in the whirlwind of responsibilities. "Hey," Sophie said softly, nudging his arm. "Why don't you go talk to her?" Sophie's encouragement pierced through his thoughts, solidifying his resolve. "Right," he murmured, almost to himself. "I'll be back." With the lightness of the cake knife still tingling in his hand, he stepped forward, blending into the crowd that seemed to part for him as he made his way toward Angela. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from dread, but from hope, an unfamiliar feeling that made his stomach flutter. "Angela!" he called out, raising his hand as he approached her. Her eyes brightened with recognition, and she stepped closer, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Mr. Thompson, it's really good to see you," she stammered, clearly caught off guard. "It's been a while," he breathed, trying to catch his breath amidst the emotional surge. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Me neither," she replied softly, her gaze darting to the joyous children scattering around them. "I thought I'd stop by to see what this party was all about. I never imagined it was your birthday." He felt warmth creeping into his cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. "I didn't plan it. It just sort of happened." The noise of laughter faded for a moment as they shared a comforting silence, memories racing in their minds. Moments spent in the boardroom, late nights fueled by coffee and paperwork. The camaraderie that began to slip away as ambition took over. "I've watched you from afar," she said tentatively, her eyes searching his. "You've changed, haven't you?" He nodded slightly. "I'm trying to. This whole thing is so new to me. I've been alone for a long time." Angela's smile faltered, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "I get it. Loneliness can creep in unnoticed. It's easy to lose track of what truly matters." "Tonight feels different," he admitted, glancing over his shoulder at Sophie, who was happily dividing slices of cake among her friends. "These kids, this community, they have a way of reaching through the layers of isolation. I just didn't expect to feel this connection so soon." Her eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued. "And what do you plan to do with that connection?" That question hung in the air, heavy and profound. He had some ideas, visions of creating more than just a work environment, of building something meaningful within the community. But the truth remained, unvoiced and fluttering just beyond the edge of his consciousness. Before he could respond, they were interrupted by a chorus of delighted screams as one of the children accidentally dropped their slice of cake. The moment jolted him back into reality, breaking the intensity of their conversation. "Looks like they need some help," Angela said, amusement breaking through. "Right," he laughed, feeling lighter, as if the weight of his past was beginning to lift. Together, they approached the chaos, laughter bubbling between them, as he made his way through the sea of children. But just then, at the very edge of the crowd, Mr. Thompson noticed another figure, one he hadn't seen earlier, eyes glued to the festivities, the old man who lived at the end of the street, who always seemed so alone. Something inside him stirred once again, the call to reach out growing louder as he glanced back at Angela. "Let us not stop here," he said, determination painting his voice. "I think we can bring in a little more joy together." As they shared a knowing smile, the possibilities unfurled before him, endless and inviting. What awaited them beyond the celebration? Would they be able to weave in those ties of community that were so desperately needed? Mr. Thompson barely had time to finish his thought before Angela squeezed his arm gently, grounding him in the moment. The chaos of cake and laughter felt like a small universe, one that they might be able to expand if they worked together. "Let us do it," she encouraged, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The moment hung between them, a fragile promise ready to unfold. The children were still laughing, sticky fingers raised in delight as they offered bits of cake to each other like little offerings of joy. Mr. Thompson felt a pull toward the old man again, the memory of the solitary figure etched in his mind. "Come on, let us see if we can invite him in," he suggested, his heart thudding with newfound purpose. Angela nodded, determination in her expression. As they approached the older gentleman, who stood just beyond the reach of the celebration, Mr. Thompson felt a rush of both anxiety and eagerness. "Excuse me, sir," he said, his voice steady. "We're having a party to celebrate the children's creativity and joy. We'd love for you to join us." The old man looked surprised. His eyes flickered with doubt as if he were unsure how to respond. I wouldn't want to intrude," he stammered, his voice cracking with hesitation. "It's not intruding at all," Angela chimed in, her tone warm and inviting. "We'd love to have you. Everyone could benefit from your company, trust me." Skepticism washed over his features, but beneath it was something softer, a flicker of curiosity. Finally, he nodded slowly, accepting their invitation. As they led him into the circle of laughter and color, one of the children, Lucy, caught sight of the newcomer. "Hey! Want some cake?" she yelled, her voice bubbling with unfiltered excitement. The old man's face softened as the little girl bounded over, plate in hand, glimmering with little crumbs and frosting. "Why, thank you," he replied, a smile breaking through years of solitude, making the edges of his face seem less worn. Mr. Thompson stepped back a little, soaking in the transformation. The scene before him began to shift as more children gathered around the old man, eager to learn his name, to share stories about their adventures. It was beautiful to witness the merging of two worlds. The joy of childhood innocence and the quiet wisdom of age blending seamlessly. Mr. Thompson looked at Angela, who stood beside him with her own smile, radiant and genuine. "See?" she said softly. "You're already making a difference." He wanted to say more, to share the swell of emotions blooming in his chest, but he was stopped by the waves of laughter rolling around him. Children were dancing around the old man, little hands tugging at his sleeves, pulling him into their circle of joy. A sudden fear gripped him. What if this fleeting moment was it? What if he didn't know how to keep this connection alive? Angela must have sensed his inner turmoil because she placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "This is just the start," she assured him, gaze steady. "You've already sparked something beautiful. Don't let worry overshadow it. Let us keep this going." Fueled by her words, he felt his heart race with anticipation. Perhaps they could build a community event, a weekly gathering, a space where no one felt alone. "I want to make sure nobody else ever has to feel like that old man," he said, a fire igniting within him. "What if we organized something regularly? Activities for the kids but also open for everyone else." Angela's eyes brightened with each word he spoke. "That's an amazing idea. We could reach out to more neighbors, coordinate supplies, activities. We can make this something really special." As the two brainstormed possibilities, the laughter swirled around them like a soft embrace. For the first time in years, the shadows of uncertainty lifted, leaving only light and hope. Yet, in the midst of their plans, a voice interrupted. It was Sophie, who approached them with a puzzled expression. "Mr. Thompson, there's someone else looking for you. An urgent message." Now what? Who could it be? The atmosphere shifted, anticipation fading into uncertainty once more. What news would pull him from this burgeoning happiness? With worries creeping back into his heart, he turned to Angela, dread threatening to overshadow their moment of connection. Would this be another loss, another joy snatched away? "Let us go see," he said, swallowing hard, not wanting to leave the warmth they had just discovered. As they started to turn away, part of him clung to the joy around them, praying it wouldn't shatter before they could hold it close. Mr. Thompson felt a tightening in his chest as he followed Sophie away from the laughter and color of the party. Each step felt heavier, like each joyful sound was being muffled the further he moved. He glanced back at the old man, now surrounded by children, his lips quirked into a genuine smile. Would that connection still be there when he returned? What is going on? Angela's voice lingered in his mind, full of warmth and support. He wished he could take her assurance with him, to carry it like a shield against the uncertain future that loomed ahead. Sophie led them outside into the cool shade of a nearby tree. The air was thick with anticipation, and an unease coiled around Mr. Thompson's stomach until he felt it in his throat. "There's a woman here," Sophie started, her tone serious. "She asked for you specifically. I think it's about your mom." Just hearing the word mom sent a chill coursing through him, reaching into his memory banks filled with laughter mixed with loss. He swallowed hard, trying to bristle against fear as he nodded, urging his mind to stay focused. "What about her?" Sophie hesitated, her eyes darting away. "I think she might need you. There's been an accident." That word hung in the air, crashing into him with the force of an oncoming train. Mr. Thompson's heart raced faster than he ever thought possible. An accident? How serious could it be? "Where is she?" He blurted out, panic lacing his words as he shifted imperatively on his feet. "Just inside the community center." "She's with a doctor," Sophie said, her expression a mixture of concern and sympathy. "Let us go," he urged while Angela placed a soothing hand on his back. He could feel her warmth travel through him like a miracle, anchoring him even as anxiety threatened to sweep him away. As the trio burst through the doors into the center, the vibrant energy of the party faded to a whisper. Popping balloons and the smell of frosting seemed miles away. The air was thick with worry as they walked through the gathering, his focus honed in on the small group gathered at the far side. When they reached the crowd, a doctor dressed in a crisp white coat stepped forward, his expression grave yet reassuring. "Mr. Thompson. I'm Dr. Harris." He gestured toward his mother, who sat slumped in a chair, an ice pack resting on her forehead. "She fainted, but it's nothing serious, a minor concussion, just some dehydration." "Is she okay?" His voice barely cracked out as he approached his mother, relief flooding through him as he caught sight of her eyes blinking upward, although still hazy. "You scared me, Mom," he scolded gently while wrapping his arms around her. She smiled weakly, her presence infinitely calming against the tumult of worry he had felt. "I just got a little dizzy, dear," she said, her voice soft despite the concern in her eyes. "They're taking good care of me." Sophie stepped back, giving them a moment to reconnect. Built-up emotions poured out, leaving Mr. Thompson both grateful and shaken. As he sat beside her, the weight of their earlier conversation rushed back. Would he have enough time now to follow through on the plans with Angela? Would the connection he found with the community flourish, or would it dissipate? What about the party? He whispered, looking at her with worry. "I'm sure it's wonderful. Why don't you check?" "I'm fine here." She smiled tenderly, her spirit still gleaming despite the minor scare. With a heavy heart, he stood up, turning to find Angela. But just as he stepped away, he caught sight of the old man, who stood observing the scene from a distance, not far from where laughter had filled the air mere moments before. Their eyes locked for a brief instant. The warmth from the connection he had felt earlier flickered again, igniting an idea in Mr. Thompson's mind. Perhaps they could turn this moment around. Through love, people could create beauty out of chaos. Realization swept over him, and he felt the weight of purpose pressing down on his chest, urging him to act. He turned back to the doctor. "Can I take her some water?" The doctor nodded. And as he dashed towards the cooler, Mr. Thompson thought about the community gathering formed in laughter and cake, now standing at the edge of something beautiful and essential. With thoughts racing, He spun around in search of Angela, but what obstacle lay ahead would determine the connection he had just begun to explore. Mr. Thompson hurried towards the cooler, his heart beating in a chaotic rhythm. He grabbed a cup of water, filled it to the brim, and returned to his mother. The relief in his chest was palpable now. It was almost like he had forgotten how to breathe properly until that moment. "Here you go, Mom," he said, gently lifting her chin as he pressed the cup to her lips. She took a small sip, her eyes narrowing with appreciation. "Thank you, dear. I'm so lucky to have you here," she murmured, a smile playing on her lips. That smile anchored him, pulling him back from the edge of fear he had been teetering on moments before. The quiet buzz of the community center felt different now, like a tapestry woven of individual stories suddenly alive, threading new connections with each heartbeat. Mr. Thompson glanced over to where Sophie still stood, her expression a mix of relief and gentle joy. It was a reminder that kindness, even in the smallest actions, could create ripples of warmth. But just as he settled back into the moment, the hum of the crowd suddenly shifted. A gasp echoed from nearer the entrance. He whipped around to see a young girl burst through the doors, her face illuminated with excitement. Clutched tightly in her small hands was a colorful cake, adorned with bright frosting and candles that flickered in the light. "Mr. Thompson," she called, her voice ringing with enthusiasm that cut through the tension. "I found out it's your birthday. So I brought this for you." A ripple of laughter and whispers followed her declaration, and Mr. Thompson's jaw dropped in disbelief. The sweetness of the moment washed over him in waves. He was struck by this unexpected surprise, brought by a child filled with pure-hearted joy and determination. "Happy birthday." The girl continued, her face flushed with pride as she held the cake aloft, oblivious to how much he needed that very moment. "Let us celebrate." His eyes widened, glancing back at his mom. "It's not. I didn't even plan." He felt a strange twist in his heart, an unfamiliar mix of humility and gratitude. Sophie stepped forward, chuckling as she addressed the girl. "That was very sweet. How did you know it was his birthday?" "I overheard," the girl replied, still grinning. "And I wanted him to have a special day." He could hardly process what was happening. A child, with no fear of embarrassment, had taken it upon herself to bring joy to someone she barely knew. It lit a spark in his soul, pushing aside the burdens he had been carrying. As people began to gather around, smiles stretching across their faces, he felt the warmth of community wrapping around him tighter than ever. The heaviness in his heart from earlier seemed to lift, replaced by the promise of what connection could look like even in moments when fear threatened to snuff it out. With the girl standing proudly at the forefront, ready for everyone to join in on this unexpected celebration, Mr. Thompson caught sight of Angela again, her eyes bright with delight as she leaned against the wall, taking in the scene. He felt drawn to her, wanting to share this wave of joy, this beautiful reminder of love pulsing through the heart of the community. "Make a wish," the girl urged, her enthusiasm infectious. His mom nudged him gently, her approving look urging him to lean into the spontaneity of the moment. Closing his eyes, he made a wish, though he wasn't quite sure what he wanted. It felt impossible to narrow it down. But the truth settled deeper within him. Maybe he didn't need to plan everything anymore. Maybe love would guide the way. As he opened his eyes, he glanced at that old man again, still watching, and suddenly everything felt intertwined: the past, the present, and what could be. What wish had he truly made, and how would the community press forward from this moment? Would they abandon that spark of connection, or would they choose to nurture it into something lasting and profound? With that thought racing through his mind, a new panic lurked. Was he ready to embrace it? The moment felt alive, electric with anticipation. Mr. Thompson's mind raced as he took in the smiles around him. He turned back to the girl, who was waiting expectantly, her tiny feet tapping eagerly on the ground. The chatter of excited conversations filled the air, a delightful melody that made him smile despite the chaos in his heart. "Okay, everyone. Gather around," Sophie called out, her voice rising above the buzz. People began to close in, forming a circle around Mr. Thompson and the young girl, their collective warmth wrapping him in a comforting embrace. "Make your wish, Mr. Thompson." Someone shouted from the crowd, their laughter mixing with the moment's sweetness. The girl held the cake higher, the candles flickering defiantly against the light. He glanced at his mother for reassurance. Her expression was calm, filled with love and pride. She smiled encouragingly, her frail hand resting warmly on his arm, reminding him that he wasn't he alone. This community, with all its colors and stories, had come together not just for him, but for each other. It was a reminder that amidst the chaos of life, moments of pure joy could emerge if they just allowed themselves to be fully present. "Okay," he whispered, closing his eyes again. He could feel the warmth of the lights above and hear the soft murmurs of support surrounding him. He wished not for riches or success, but for connection, for more moments like this, where laughter and love flourished. He hoped for a way to bridge the gaps between past hurt and present joy, to find a way to build something real. As he opened his eyes, they glistened with unshed tears of joy. "I wish for more moments like this," he declared, and the crowd erupted in applause. The young girl beamed, her joy infectious. "Let us sing." Someone called out, and the crowd joined in, their voices merging together in a raucous rendition of Happy Birthday. Mr. Thompson felt the rhythm in his chest, the heartbeats of people who, for a brief moment, were all connected through a simple act of kindness. He looked around, taking in the faces Angela's laughter mixing with his mother's soft smile, Sophie's playful enthusiasm and even the gentle gestures from the old man by the wall. The weight of his worries felt lighter now, as if they were being replaced by something monumental. After the song ended, the girls set the cake down carefully. "Okay, blow out the candles," she urged, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. He took a deep breath, feeling every gaze upon him, charged with hope. He leaned forward and blew, the candles extinguishing in unison. Cheers erupted, filling the room with exuberant energy. What felt like a rite of passage now resonated deeper than any simple birthday celebration. It was a promise of connection, of not facing solitude any longer. Moments later, as laughter echoed through the center, Mr. Thompson realized he had turned his gaze toward the past too long. Connecting with the community, it offered the chance for healing, an opportunity to share his journey in a way he never thought possible. But as the crowd began to disperse, he couldn't shake the feeling of something still hanging in the air. What lay beyond this moment? Would they all remember this day tomorrow? Would they cherish this spark of kindness that had brightened them all? He looked over at Angela, who was now chatting animatedly with his mother, laughter spilling from their mouths. Maybe this was the start of something new, something transformative. The old man caught his eye again, the look in his gaze a mix of interest and knowing. What had this man seen in his life? What wisdom was hidden behind those lines etched upon his face? With the fire of friendship igniting fiercely inside him, Mr. Thompson felt drawn toward their conversation. "Excuse me," he began, forgetting the cake momentarily. "I'd like to hear your story." And with that, the next chapter of his journey unfolded, ready to reveal the unexpected lessons waiting in the wisdom of another. As Mr. Thompson approached the old man, he felt a surge of courage bubble within him. This was at the moment to embrace connection and discover the beauty in sharing stories that had lain dormant for far too long. He could feel the air buzzing around him, filled with laughter and joy, but he sensed that the real heart of this community was about to blossom in ways he had never imagined. "Hi," he said gently, a warm smile lighting up his face. "I'm Mr. Thompson. I noticed you watching the celebration. Would you like to share your story with me?" The old man's expression softened, a glimmer of surprise flashing in his eyes. "I'm just a quiet fellow, nothing noteworthy about me," he replied with a raspy voice. But the hint of hesitance wavered, as if a spark had been ignited within him. "You'd be surprised," Mr. Thompson encouraged, pulling up a chair beside him. "Everyone's life is filled with stories worth sharing. Please, I'd love to listen." The old man shifted, his weathered hands gripping the edge of the table. "All right then." He sighed, and a flood of memories began to spill forth. I've lived here in Maplewood for over 50 years. In my youth, I was a carpenter. Built a lot of the homes in this town, or at least helped. Mr. Thompson leaned in, completely captivated by the man's words. As he spoke, the crowd around him faded, replaced by the tapestry of shared experiences. The old man unfolded tales of hard work, laughter shared over coffee breaks, and the deep bonds formed with neighbors as they built not just houses but also a sense of community. With each word, Mr. Thompson felt his own heart lighten. This was it, understanding and camaraderie unfolding where loneliness had once reigned. I remember a time, the old man continued, a smile tugging at his lips, when everyone came together to build the playground. The kids, they filled the place with laughter, and we built friendships right along with it. Sounds like those were great days, Mr. Thompson replied, his voice filled with warmth. Maybe we could bring that spirit back. The old man's eyes sparkled with interest. You think so? This town has been through a lot. Many of us have given up on each other. That's why we need to come together again. Like today, look at these kids, the joy they've ignited. It's the little things that matter. As they exchanged ideas and stories, a spark ignited in Mr. Thompson. He realized the deeper the connections he created, the more the community could heal together. Just then, Sophie bounded over, her energy infectious. Did you hear everyone talking about the next party? She beamed. We could do a talent show. We have so many amazing storytellers. Yes. Mr. Thompson exclaimed, the enthusiasm bubbling over. What if we could organize local events, not just for the kids, but for everyone? We could invite everyone to share their stories and talents. In that moment, the old man glanced around, taking in the bounce of laughter and creativity around them. That's a beautiful idea, he said softly, a feeling of hope filling the space. His voice was steadier now, the weight of solitude lifting. We could use that to rebuild what has been lost. With that, they forged a bond, a pact to reignite the fire in their community's heart. They would face the challenges together, a collective promise to remind each other that no one had to be alone. Meanwhile, as the evening descended, Angela found Mr. Thompson amidst the crowd of excitement, her expression bright with admiration. You did it, she smiled, her eyes sparkling. You've sparked a movement here. It's incredible. I didn't do it alone, he replied, gesturing toward the old man who now regaled children with tales of his adventures. Connection is a powerful force. I think we all need this to belong. Angela's gaze turned contemplative. It starts with stories and kindness. We can build something great. All of us. As the evening light dimmed and stars sparkled above, a sense of community had blossomed in Maplewood, a mission unfolding beneath the blanket of night. Families began to gather, sharing plans for upcoming celebrations, talking about their dreams to reconnect and bring joy back to their town. As they entered this new chapter, Mr. Thompson stood at the center, no longer just an observer but a vital part of the community's fabric. The laughter, shared stories, and rekindled warmth surrounded him with a sense of belonging he'd long yearned for. In those moments filled with hope, he realized that kindness, like a birthday cake, could be shared generously, and with every slice, they could build a stronger connection across the divides that had once seemed insurmountable. Mr. Thompson took a deep breath, soaking in the laughter, love, and connections swirling around him. Here's to many more celebrations, he mused aloud, a radiant smile on his face. And as everyone joined in, the chorus of voices lifted into the night air, the spirit of Maplewood shining bright, the warmth of community lighting the way to new tomorrows. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.